Hello there everyone, welcome back, and today we're taking a look at the Nerf Fortnite 6-SH rules right off the tongue. Now, as you can clearly see, this is a revolver, so I'm going to refer to it as such, but despite the fact that it's Fortnite, which I'm not really a fan of Fortnite, but it did look interesting enough at my local Walmart that I decided to pick one up, and as you can see, it is cartoonish being from, well, Fortnite, but it's not overly so, at least not when it doesn't have this monstrous barrel extension on, which, this being a faux barrel, which, despite the relatively large inner barrel diameter for a Nerf barrel, it doesn't really help performance, actually hurts it, like the long shot one, but it doesn't really serve a purpose, and when it has it, well, this is how it would look like if it had it on, which, that, in my subjective opinion, this without it looks better than what it would look like with it. So I'm just not going to attach this. I'll just do the core blaster. But without it, it is actually pretty well balanced, it is spinnable, and it is actually pretty comfortable despite the slightly cartoonish dimensions. It is actually fairly comfortable, and as a bonus, it doesn't actually have the Fortnite logo anywhere on it, because the only logo on it's on this. But regardless, that is a pretty cool looking blaster. I mean, it isn't. I am actually probably going to repaint this at some point, maybe a good green or something. But it is a pretty cool sort of camo-esque, though it does seem like the type of a paint job that you would either love or hate. But yeah, regardless of that, it is a fairly standard 6-shot revolver, has a fairly smooth prime and trigger pull, and it has a good indexing sound when you index the cylinder, and that is quite cool. But the only real complaint I have about the features of this blaster is this barrel lug here, which is, of course, used to attach this. I have no idea why they decided to not make this an in-strike barrel lug, and instead make this a proprietary one, which means that if you put this on, you're not really going to be able to take it off unless you spend about half an hour using a screwdriver, and even then you might end up breaking out. So I'm just not going to put it on in the first place. But regardless of that one slight complaint, it is actually pretty cool, and I do actually quite like it. Now, I will go ahead and I will do a firing demonstration, though as opposed to using these darts that came with it, these are actually just elite darts that are differently colored. I am going to use Adventure Force Wafflehead darts because as I made a video in, these are better. So as you can see here, you can load in through either aperture on the side, and of course you can index it, then continue to load them. It is a bit more tedious than loading in a fully loaded magazine, but for what it is a quite smooth reloading action. It is quite good. So let's do some firing. Time to reload. It is sometimes difficult to reload quickly when you're in a Nerf war, unless you've practiced this bit a lot. But once you practice it, it is relatively easy, but it does take some time to get used to. Let's do this fast with 2 hands. Nice. So, as you saw there, the performance is pretty good. I mean, if it had this barrel extension on, then it would be a bit slower because the drag from this would affect the darts a bit, but otherwise it does have fairly standard performance that's in line with other Nerf Elite blasters, and is probably pretty much the same as you would get with the Hammershot, so that is good. And as for my personal opinion of this blaster, I do quite like it. I mean, over the I would say that's an upgrade over the Hammershot. I mean, part of that's subjective, of course, that being my opinion, but the grip feels more comfortable than the Hammershot one, because despite the size of this and despite the fact that I have pretty small hands, this is pretty comfortable because I can choke up on it and then I can just sort of move it up to fire. It does have a different feel than the Hammershot. It feels almost like a wheel gun of sorts, or an old sort of flintlock, the old dueling pistols that you had. You would do it behind your back and then like that, but it is actually pretty comfortable, and if you had a larger hand or normal sized human hand, because I don't have those, but if you had larger hands, then this would also fit you quite comfortably. And overall, the ergonomics of this blaster are quite good, which is great to see. And as for the performance itself, the performance is as I expected, but it is good that it hasn't jammed or anything, or that the barrel system that works well, and that it is actually a good upgrade over the Hammershot, though the only catch is the price, which at about $20 is a bit more expensive than you would see from your average Hammershot, because your average Hammershot, even these days, I mean, they don't really sell them these days, but even then, this is about $5 more than you would expect your average Hammershot, or, for instance, your Disruptor to be. But if you are willing to spend the extra $5 on the blaster, then this is quite good, and I will go as far to say as this is the best Nerf revolver that they have ever made, and it's pretty much the highest praise I can think of for it. And even though that is a Fortnite blaster, and like I said, I'm not a Fortnite fan, but even despite that, and even despite the fact that it's a bit overpriced because of Epic Games being Epic Games, in my opinion, it's a pretty good blaster, and if you're willing to spend the bit of extra money, I would go check it out. So, that's pretty much it for the video, and I hope you have a good day, everybody.